You don't hate people. That's the strange part. You can laugh with them, talk for hours, even care deeply. But at some point, something inside you quietly pulls away. And when you finally get home, close the door, and sit in silence, that's when you feel like yourself again. Not lonely, not empty, just relieved. And maybe you've wondered, what does that say about you? Because the world keeps telling you the same story. If you enjoy being alone, something must be wrong. But what if that story is wrong? There's a moment most people don't notice. It happens in the middle of a conversation. Nothing dramatic, no argument, no conflict. Just a subtle shift. You're listening, nodding, responding. But inside, you've already stepped back. You start observing instead of participating. The noise feels louder, the energy feels heavier, and suddenly you're not tired of the people. You're tired of the version of yourself you have to be around them. So later, when you choose to be alone, it's not rejection, it's recovery. People who enjoy being alone aren't always antisocial. In fact, many of them are the opposite. They notice everything. Tone changes, body language, the way someone says, "I'm fine," when they're clearly not. And over time, that constant awareness becomes exhausting because you're not just in conversations, you're processing them, feeling them, replaying them long after they're over. So solitude becomes a kind of quiet reset, a place where nothing is expected from you, where you don't have to read between the lines, where your mind can finally unclench. But here's where it gets deeper. It's not just about energy, it's about honesty. When you're alone, something unusual happens. You stop performing. No small talk, no pretending to be more outgoing than you feel, no adjusting your personality to fit the room. Just you, unfiltered. And for some people, that's the only place they feel real, because out there in the world, there's always a version of you being edited, softened, sharpened, changed just enough to be accepted. But in solitude, nothing needs to be changed. And that kind of freedom is addictive. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you sat alone with no phone, no distractions, and actually felt calm? Not bored, not restless, just okay. For a lot of people, that silence feels uncomfortable, almost threatening. But for someone who enjoys being alone, that silence feels like home, because they've learned something most people haven't. Your own company can either feel like a prison or a sanctuary, and that difference changes everything. Here's the part no one really talks about. People who enjoy being alone often aren't running away from others. They're protecting something. Their energy, their peace, their ability to think clearly, because they've experienced what happens when they don't. They say yes too often. They stay in conversations too long. They give more than they have. And slowly, without realizing it, they disappear from themselves. So now they choose differently, not because they don't care, because they finally do. But there's a twist, and it's important. Enjoying solitude doesn't mean you don't crave connection. It just means you crave a different kind, deeper, quieter, more real. You don't want to be surrounded by people. You want to be understood by the right ones. And until that happens, being alone feels better than being misunderstood. That's the truth most people won't admit. Loneliness isn't always about being alone. Sometimes it's about being with people who don't see you. So when someone says, "You're too quiet," or "You should go out more," what they don't realize is you're not missing out. You're choosing carefully. You're choosing conversations that matter, moments that feel genuine, people who don't drain you just by being around. And until those things show up, you're okay waiting, because you've already discovered something powerful. Being alone isn't the absence of connection, it's the absence of noise. It's space to think, to feel, to understand yourself without interruption. And once you get used to that kind of clarity, you stop fearing solitude. You start needing it. So no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're just someone who found peace in a place most people are too afraid to sit in. And that changes how you move through the world. Quietly, carefully, but with a kind of depth most people will never fully understand. And maybe that's the real reason you keep coming back to it. Not to escape life, but to finally hear yourself inside it.